Hey everyone, we're Chris and Sandy with the Chris and Sandy Show, where we get up close and personal, some amazing guests throughout the entertainment industry. And today, like it's on every episode, we got a great one for you. Who do we have?
We have the incredibly talented actress Cindy Busby, known for her iconic role as Ashley Stanton on the hit series Heartland. Cindy has captivated audiences worldwide, and she's now bringing her undeniable charm to When Hope Calls on Great American.
And welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
She's got the harder part. You know, she's got to pronounce everything right.
I get it. It's a lot of pressure. Thank you for doing it justice.
Oh, thank you. All right. So we wanted to ask you about your role on Heartland and then your role on When Hope Calls. Tell us about both.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough. Gosh, I think it was 2008 now when I first booked Heartland. So many lifetimes ago, it seems, where I got to play the role of Ashley Stanton, who was the antagonist character on the show. And so, it ruffled some feathers, caused a little bit of trouble. But Ashley has like this incredible arc throughout the first 4 seasons of the show. And, you get to learn, why she was the way she was, and, coming from a rich family with a difficult mother and finding her way throughout the show. It was such an incredible experience for me. It's a show that like really changed my life in so many ways.
Oh, wow.
And is still such a show that fans love and keep discovering over time.
Yeah.
And, they just completed season 18 and they just announced season 19.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So I was throughout the season 1 through 4. Then I came back for a few episodes in season 7. And then they had my character come back at the end, the last episode of season 18. So,
oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
I hadn't been on the show for 11 years.
Wow.
And
How was that?
And I honestly didn't even know if I could even play like Ashley, when you've gone through so much in your life. And like I've done so many other types of roles. And then, when it came back around, I was like, okay, like, do I feel like I could do this justice again? What could I bring to the character? And ultimately I decided to do it because the fans have just been so incredibly loyal and supportive and loving throughout my career. And, they followed me in the movies that I've done, in everything. And this show has just gained momentum because, it plays worldwide on Netflix now.
Yeah.
It's been quite a successful Canadian series, which all started off as a series of books. So,
you never know, right?
it's amazing. It's amazing what can happen. But yeah, it's truly been a blessing to have been a part of that show. And
So do you think that taking that break helped your character?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helped to some capacity. I guess for myself, Cindy Busby, I got to grow and learn so much in my life and nurture myself and get to expand and wiser. And I guess I was able to navigate that and bring that into the character of Ashley as well. Because I think as an actor, we grow as individuals and we can't help but bring that, into the character as like as many other layers to the person. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting to kind of like think about and write about, okay, like what has Ashley been up to and what has she been doing during all this time? And what does that mean for her to come back? And what would that feel like to see all of her friends again when she hasn't seen them in so long? So it's cool to kind of create that backstory going
And pre and post COVID. I mean,
right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, there's all that too. So yeah, that certainly adds an element of interesting dynamic for sure.
So tell us about the transition into When Hope Calls.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, between Heartland and When Hope Calls, I've had a wonderful career, which I'm extremely grateful for. And When Hope Calls came my way. So this was a show that initially had a prior season on a different network with different characters. And then that was like in 2018, premiered in 2019. And then, you know, because of world events, things got postponed and things were happening. And so finally, the show was able to get picked up last year on Great American Family, Great American Pure Flix, and Super Channel Heart and Home. And so I got the audition. And at the time when I initially got the audition, I wasn't able to do it because my life was very busy and, you know, working, etc. So I wasn't able to do it. But then it came back around my way, as things that are meant for you do. And so I auditioned for the role of Nora, and, you know, it worked out for me. And I'd worked with the CEO of Great American Media for a long time, Bill Abbott. And so obviously we had a relationship there. And and then I found out that I was going to be working with Christopher Russell, who is my co-star, who plays the Mountie on the show. And he and I have done 4 movies together before this show. So we had an incredible relationship. Like,
you already had that connection.
Totally. And we have that chemistry. And so it's been really great to get to work together again. And we honestly didn't even know that we had the opportunity of working together. And when I found out that he was going to be my co-star, I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, what are the chances? Obviously quite high. And so, yeah, we just loved working together. And that's kind of how I got the role. And then we shot the show in the fall of 2024 up in Canada and in North Bay, Ontario. And we were out there for about 2 months. And it's so cool to get to play a character, you know, in 1920. So getting to be a part of a period piece and play a character who's a lawyer in that time period, which would have been, you know, it just goes to show you how much of a strong character and personality Nora is, because she's kind of ahead of the curve. You know, there was only about 1% of women that were 1% of lawyers that were women.
Oh, wow.
And that's kind of a big deal. And, you know, that was kind of it takes place in like a frontier town, which is called Brookfield. And you kind of just get to know all of these beautiful characters who are, just like so, you know, charismatic and funny, and there's drama and action. It's kind of like everything you want in a show, while also being, you know, family friendly, which is a beautiful thing.
It's great when you can mix that. So what would you say is your, you learned about yourself through this role?
Oh, yeah. Well, what I learned about myself is, you know, I get to be the lead of the show. So that is a huge thing. And I've learned that, you know, working on a show like this is a lot of work, but it's a group effort. And I work really well as a team. You know, it's something I've known for a really long time. But I really enjoyed, you know, lifting other people up and making sure that we're all in this together on this show, which, interestingly enough, is very much how Brookfield is, the town in this show as well. They're people that are a community. They come together, they work together, they lift each other up. And I think that that's kind of what we were able to create behind the scenes on this show, and then subsequently in front of the camera. But what I learned from Nora myself is just, you know, how strong of a person I am. And you can equally be a strong person who has conviction and strengths and determination, but can also be soft and empathetic and caring and kind and helpful. And I think that those two things can coexist in people. And, you know, I think I've been such a trailblazer in many ways in my life, and so has Nora. And so being able to kind of also sit back and be that gentle, bring that gentle energy to things is a real gift. And I think that that's a beautiful quality that I've taken with me.
So what's a moment, whether it's this movie, last movie, doesn't matter which ones, but what are shows? I mean, what's a moment behind the scenes where something happened and you're like, this is why I do this?
Ooh, gosh, I mean, I can't possibly say there's only one moment, but I think I've been lucky enough to have been part of these conventions for the last few years, called Christmas Con, which takes place in New Jersey in December, and it's a weekend affair where some of the incredible supportive fans come together and get to meet us, and we get to meet them, and we get to kind of share stories and get to meet in person, because as an actor, it feels kind of bizarre because you in some capacity are with the community, the cast and crew, but you're never with the people watching. So to be able to put a face to the people who love and appreciate your show is so important to me, because there is kind of that disconnect. So to be able to go to this event and get to speak to the people that love the projects that I'm a part of and are the support system that I've had for years, and people I've gotten to know on Instagram and Facebook, and we don't know each other in person, but then when we see each other, it's like we've known each other for so long. And, hearing some of their stories of how they, watched my movie with their grandmother or their parents, and they've since passed. And now when they watch it, they feel close to them.
The connection there.
Yeah, it's like an everlasting connection that I'm somehow a part of, which is like so incredibly special and meaningful to me. And sometimes, you don't recognize how important the work that you're a part of can be. Because, it's not brain surgery or anything like that. However, they are stories that unite people, and people come together to watch them. And there's so little that we can do that today with, and to be able to sit down with our kids or our parents, our siblings, etc., is such a special thing to do, and to be a part of that and to hear the stories. I mean, I've truly been brought to tears many times of hearing that and not realizing what an impact I may have had in someone's life. And that I really take to heart and I take seriously. And that's why I love what I do, is to tell story and to change people's perspectives and make people feel is such a magical thing.
Exactly. And that's exactly why that we do this show, is to get the stories behind people like you. Because I think so many times out there, the audience is, oh, this is just another actor or actress. And they don't really know the person. They just know the roles and all that. And you get put down all the time and all that because, oh, that's an easy job. But people don't realize how difficult that is. People see the glory in what you do, but they don't see the grind, the sacrifice, the tears, the struggles it takes to make it on any level. So take a few moments, because we like to talk about that side of the grittiness. And take a few moments and let's go there. What is it really like on set and the grittiness?
Well, first of all, if you can even ever make it to a set is the gift. So, if you can make it on set, that is truly a gift, and you've done something along the way that led you to this moment. And there are so many moments that happen before you make it to set. Kind of like what you said of the amount of classes and auditions and callbacks and director sessions, producer sessions, and then it doesn't work out your way. And then, having a part-time job while you're also auditioning, while you're also in class, while you're doing all of these things. And this, for me, I mean, I've been in the business for like 25 years now. And so it's been a lot of that. And it's only really been in the last, I'm going to say about 10 to 12 years that it's really manifested itself into something where I could finally see the fruits of my labor.
Wow.
So I always like to say that, because it like you said, it isn't easy. And I feel very lucky to be in the position that I am in. And once you do make it to set, for example, on When Hope Calls, it looks a little bit like waking up at about 4:30 in the morning, getting ready for my day, which means, brushing my teeth, washing my face. I don't have to do my hair and makeup because I go to set to do that. And then I get picked up, I go to set, and then I get my hair and makeup done, which typically takes about an hour and a half. And then I put my costume on. I usually have a little bit of breakfast. I typically bring my dog, Susie, with me. She hangs out in my trailer. She's like my little emotional support dog.
Oh,
and and then a day on set is usually about 12 hours.
Wow.
So all in, my day looks about to be, if it's a full day, is about a 15-hour day where I'm at work, which includes my hair and makeup, travel time. So it's a rather rigorous day. We usually work for 6 hours, then we get an hour lunch. That's, you know, our own free time to decompress and eat some food and look over our lines for the next day. And for an actor, you know, you're done your day, but then typically you go home and then you're looking over your lines for the next day because although you've likely worked on them ahead of time, there's only so much you can fit in this brain where you're like, all right, on to the next. I gotta delete what I learned.
You don't get overload.
Yeah, exactly. It can become all consuming. So then you look over your lines for the next day, you know, you wash your face, you do that whole thing, and then you go to bed and then you do it all over again. And, you know, sometimes it's more of about a 6-hour sleep before you got to get up and do it again, sort of thing. But it's a lot of hard work. It's tiring. They're long days, and especially if you're shooting outside in the elements, you know, that affects things. But I'd be lying if I didn't say I absolutely adored every second of it. You know, like I get to work and do what I've dreamt of doing since I can remember. And I get to work with so many passionate, talented people. We laugh all day long. We work together. We help each other. We get to know each other. And honestly, the hardest part every single time is having to say goodbye to everybody after you've worked with them for a month.
For so long, you know.
Yeah.
And you're together, like I said, for like
almost 24/7.
Yeah, you're like literally together all the time, all day. You know, in a month's time, you spend more time with them than you would your family sometimes in a year, right? Like if you live far away, like I do. And so it's truly such a bizarre dynamic in that you're so close so quickly, and yet eventually you don't see each other anymore. And it's such a heartbreaking. I do go through a mourning process for about a week post job where I have to kind of, you know, reconnect to myself, and I'm like, okay, who am I now? Because I've been this character for so long, and I've been around all these people, and I'm such an extrovert when I'm around people, but then I have to really plug myself in when I'm at home. So it's an incredible, again, there's tough things about it, but it's mostly just incredible.
So do you have a moment where back in the past where you were like, wow, this could actually be my career? Was there that moment where it clicked?
Oh God. I'm going to say I feel like I've always been a bit naive in thinking.
You've always believed.
I always believed, and I really did. And I say that there was a sense of naiveness to like how difficult it would be, where I didn't realize, but I was like, I'm just going to do it anyway. And I even remember when I was because I only started acting professionally after high school. When I was an adult, but in my high school yearbook, because I did the plays in school, etc., it was written that I was going to be an actor, like as my profession.
Wow.
Is like career. And I was like,
so you sold it on everybody.
Yeah. And everybody would ask me, they're like, oh, so, you know, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I'm like, I'm going to be an actress, and I'm going to live in Los Angeles and all this stuff. And they were like, really, you're going to live in Los Angeles. Okay. And they're like, but what's your backup plan? And I was like, backup plan? I don't have a backup plan. This is it. This is what I'm doing. And although
people don't understand, you know, people don't understand that, especially in the creative world. One thing I've learned interviewing artists, actors, CEOs, but especially within the creative force, is that if you have I've heard the term that if you have a backup plan, go on and do it, because you will be there.
It's so true. So true. I completely agree with that. And I you know, not to say I had plenty of side gigs, you know, along the way while trying to make a living as an actor. And, you know, I certainly paid my dues in that regard. That being said, I always knew that that was temporary and it wasn't going to be forever while I was trying to make this happen. So yeah, I mean, call me crazy, but like you said, as an artist, you know, and I really think like when people ask me, you know, what do I do to become an actor? Like, what's it going to take for me to get there? And I have to say, I was like, you have to be willing to just do it without the outcome of making a living out of it or being famous or being rich or anything like that. You just have to do it because you love it so much that you literally can't do anything else. This is your calling. This is what you need to do. Because if you're waiting for all those other things, chances are they may not come. Like it might not be, but you have to do it from a passionate place where you love it so much. And that's it. Because being an artist, like you said, is so difficult and challenging that if you don't love it the most, then like, what's the point, you know? And you're just going to be sad all the time.
And you know, that's a great point, because one of the people we interviewed many years ago, she was telling us that the advice she always gives people, like, if you can do anything else, then please go do that, because the amount of work it puts in to make it at any level within artistry, any level, that if you're not going to be all in, that you're then you're putting all this pressure on your family for no reason, because you're not going to make it. And so then you're going to destroy your family in the process, and you don't even make it. Where here, at least your family can see you're all in and they can actually support that.
Yeah, totally. Because when people see that you're passionate about something and you love something so much, they can't help but want to be a part of that and support that and be your cheerleader and whatever that is, whether it's art, whether it's, you know, becoming a doctor, rescuing animals, like whatever it is, that's, if you're all in, then everyone's all in with you. I completely agree with that. And I mean, I have to say, I was very lucky to have had an extremely supportive family where they didn't know anything about the industry. They're like, we don't know how you're going to do this, but like, we're here rooting you on, and like, you know, go get them, honey. And they come to all my plays. And, you know, the funniest thing I have with my, you know, my parents is that they'll be like, so did you hear about that one audition? And I was like, Mom, okay, the amount of auditions I do that I don't hear back, when I hear back, trust me, you'll know, because I'll be screaming on the phone calling you.
I love that. So your parents were kind of like your first team. And, you know, a lot of people, they see you, but they don't see the team around you. So take a few moments, because on our show, we want to recognize the teams too. So take a few moments and tell us about the team that kind of helped you be who you are.
Oh, wow. Well, it's certainly a lot of people. It, of course, starts like with my family, like I said. So, you know, my mom, my dad, my stepdad, my brother, like my core family has always been so incredibly supportive with just rallying for me and seeing, you know, seeing me make it even in times where maybe I lost hope or I was getting a little bit depleted in
But
moments.
when hope calls.
Right. Yes, that's right. Exactly. And along with my family, you know, my extended family, and then of course, you know, teachers along the way. I had a lot of teachers in elementary school, you know, my music teacher, Mrs. Thomas, and I had a great theater teacher in high school, and then, you know, all my theater teachers when I went to the professional theater program at Dawson College. And I graduated from there. They were extremely supportive. And now it's my team, you know, my agent, Kaylee, and my manager, Mike, and my, you know, my PR agent, Mona, and all these people that are there to support you and believe in you and offer you these incredible opportunities. And of course, you know, I have to mention my husband, who is, you know, my pillar in my life. And he wasn't there for the first dozen years of my life. He's certainly there now, and he is always the first person to root for me and to want to watch my projects and want to tell people about them. And, you know, when I get heartbreak, he's there for me. And he's there for me for the good moments and the hard moments. And, you know, it's an industry where I have to spend a lot of time away from my husband and my home. And that can be difficult, but he makes it so easy because we always choose each other and we always make time for each other, whether we're near or far. And that definitely makes me being away working so much easier, which can be difficult, you know, when you're like living in a hotel for a month or whatever.
Yeah.
I love that. You know, speaking of teams, we have a third co-host, our little 13-year-old son.
Yes.
Oh,
He always comes
that's
on and
awesome.
asks a couple questions. So Sandy's going to get him.
Oh, I love that.
So while she's getting him, you were talking about, you know, the hurts and all that. Tell us a moment where there was a part that you just knew you had and you knew you nailed and you didn't get it, and how, you know, and it broke you a little bit. How did you handle that?
I know exactly what there was a part that I remember I had found out about, like I woke up in the morning and my agent had sent me an audition. It was like, hey, can you go to this afternoon? And I was like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, I can be there. But so I was, you know, working on the audition and I really didn't have much time, and went to the audition. It was with producers and directors, like for my first audition, which often doesn't happen. And so I walked out of the audition and right away, like the casting director was like, that was amazing. She followed me and was like, that was amazing. Like, great job. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, thank you so much. And I felt really good about it too. Well, that night I found out that they wanted me to go. This was when I lived in Vancouver. They wanted me to go to Los Angeles to test for the show in front of the network and studio. And so they flew me out a week later. I tested in front of the studio. I tested in front of the network. And I mean, in front of the studio, I was one of like 4 or 5 girls testing for that, which means you're in an auditorium with about 20 people sitting in the auditorium watching you audition. And they're like, you know, on their phones, taking notes, all that kind of thing. And I did an audition and went really well. And then the next day I went to the network audition and I was the only one they brought to the network out of those 5 girls from the day before. So I was like, oh my goodness. And like, I remember the casting director there was like, just so you know, this is like a really good sign. Like, you've got this, like, you know, you're doing a great job. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I went in, did it, felt so good about it, got great feedback. And then it was about a week later that I got a call and I didn't get it. And they ended up hiring someone that was the daughter of a famous actor that wasn't even there when I did the audition. And it was, it took me a long time to get over that one. That was extremely heartbreaking. And
did you almost quit after that?
Oh, I thought about quitting for sure. And I think I was a little bit in a funk for quite some time. I'm going to say like probably, gosh, I don't know, like 6 months or so, where I kind of like shut down a little bit. And it wasn't until I went into an acting class with a teacher who really broke down my walls again and kind of brought back that passion and inspiration and spark that was in me. And kind of was ignited. It was ignited again. And so I'm so grateful for that, because that was always what I wanted. And I don't know why I let that moment get the best of me, but you know what?
We all do that.
Made me stronger, right? And that's what happens when we can overcome these challenges, is we come back stronger, better. And what an incredible adventure that I had. Looking back on it, I'm so grateful for it, because I learned so much about myself and I was so proud of myself, which is huge.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Cindy.
Hey!
So what's your favorite food?
He gets right into it.
I love this. My favorite food is pizza.
Oh,
because what's yours?
Pizza.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh my goodness.
2 peas in a pod. I love it.
All right. So I got another question. So what's one of the coolest experiences you've had on your journey so far?
On my journey so far?
You're one of the coolest experiences.
The coolest. Ooh, my journey. Probably getting to go to Australia was really cool. I got to shoot a movie out in Australia, and I got to hold a koala and pet a kangaroo. That was really, really cool. I absolutely love that. And Australia is like so beautiful.
Yeah.
I'd love to go back.
I love that. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for
Hey,
saying
sometimes
hi.
it's a couple questions.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks.
Because we make this the family thing. And
I love that. Thank you for doing that. That's great.
So what is next for you that you think?
Well, I would love to find out, if When Hope Calls gets picked up for a third season. So we're waiting to hear on that. And then in the meantime, behind the scenes, I'm working on, developing some shows of my own, and so that I can maybe kind of dip my toes into more of the producing, directing side. The creative side that's perhaps like behind the camera, while also staying in front of the camera, of course. But yeah, just kind of expanding my wings, I think is a really beautiful thing, and allows me to kind of just keep getting better at what I do, and keep auditioning, and keep, the actor's life for me is you kind of never arrive, you just keep going at it. And that's kind of what I love about it. All at the same time.
So what's been, of all the roles you've done, what's been your most fun role?
Oh, wow.
And I know they all been fun, but is there anything that stands out?
I mean, there's maybe like 2 or 3 that like weren't that fun, but we won't talk about those ones. But no, I've been so blessed to have had so many great experiences. I will say, when I got to do a movie called Royal Hearts in Romania, I got to work with James Brolin, who played my dad, and he also directed the movie. And it was my first time in Europe, getting to be in Romania, getting to work in like castles. It was a royal type movie. And then I also got to, during my time off, got to visit Transylvania and go visit Dracula's castle and do all that kind of thing. So, and again, James Brolin is such an incredible human, a great man, and so funny. And I really loved working with him a lot. So that certainly is at the top of my list of opportunities that I've gotten that were really great. And I got to do a movie once called The Big Year with Steve Martin, who played my father-in-law. And, that's a pretty monumental moment when Steve Martin takes out his little banjo and starts playing in the green room. And you're like, what is happening right now? Like, how did I get so lucky?
I'm part of this.
Yeah, totally.
So what's been your hardest role, and what did you learn about yourself in it?
I got to do a role in a movie for Lifetime called Web of Dreams. And it was based on a V.C. Andrews book, which, delves into a lot of hard issues and a little bit of some dark matter in there. And so my character was an antagonist character, a woman from 1950s who had been through some difficult times, and she kind of had to blaze her way by doing things that, weren't really standing in integrity, etc. But I learned a lot through her, because finding empathy in characters that are difficult to find empathy in is because they're a little bit more rough around the edges and would be considered the villain, so to speak. But as an actor, you have to go into a story not seeing them as a villain, but seeing them as a wounded human who's just trying to make their way. And so for me, it was a lot about that was a difficult process, finding the empathy for a character that would otherwise be not quite liked. And I enjoyed that process as an actor of really getting to love a character that's not so lovable.
Because like they always say, hurt people hurt people.
That's right. 100%. Yeah.
And people don't understand that. They'll put people down for whatever reason. Yeah. And they don't realize that there's always pain from that backlash.
Absolutely. There's a lot of pain behind people doing things that are difficult and not very nice. They're, like you said, they're hurt, and some reason they feel like they need to hurt others in the process, which is really unfortunate. But hopefully by leading through by example, we can make the world a better place little by little, starting in our own lives.
Love that. So where do you want to be in 5 years?
Where do I want to be in 5 years? Probably on a beach in Hawaii. No, I would love to yeah, just keep doing what I'm doing. I keep acting. Keep loving, keep working with animals. I love animals, and I'm a big rescue animal advocate. So doing that, hopefully be producing some of my own projects, and just spending a lot of quality time with my family, because that means a lot to me.
Love that. I got two more questions for you.
Yeah.
So let's say that we're 15, 20 years down the road. You're a success on a grand scale, whatever that looks like for you, you can say you have made it. What do you hope you never forget along that journey?
I mean, I feel like I've been so lucky in my career, and just being able to be a working actor has been the greatest blessing. So in a lot of ways, I do feel like I've made it. I've accomplished so much in my life and in my career. And I think the biggest thing I don't ever want to forget is my job is so important to me, and it means the world to me. It's what I've worked the hardest for in my life. But I never want to forget, the human being that I am, the heart that I am, the groundedness that I am, and the people in my life that mean so much to me. Those are the people that, hold my hand through it all. And I can't say enough about how and why that's so important to me. And so I never want to forget that. That's the most important part.
Now, before I go to the last question, you just brought something up that made me think of something else. How do you stay grounded?
By surrounding myself with incredible human beings that have integrity, that stand for greatness and love and compassion. But also by having, a faithful practice, and by being in nature, by spending time alone, I think is really important for me to reconnect to myself, and by eating really delicious food and cooking it myself.
I love that. So I like to end on the same question as always. What advice would you give somebody who wants to do what you do?
Oh, I would say just dive in. If you want to be an actor, relish in all of the greats, read plays, watch, classic movies, be in class, like be in the world that is acting. Get to meet people that's in your world, get to meet the people that are inspiring and inspire you, and those that are passionate, and surround yourself by it, and surround yourself with people that are going to be incredibly supportive. But most of all, know in your heart what you want, and don't let anyone's opinion get in the way of what matters to you and how you want to do it and how you want to get there, because everybody's going to have an opinion on your life in general based on what their experience is, but that's not your experience, and that's not where you're coming from. And someone's perspective might not be yours, and don't let any of that get in your way. And keep striving for what you want, and whether that's acting or in anything, what's best for you, and just embrace it all, and embrace the good, the bad, and everything in between, because it makes you stronger, it makes you better. And also live your life, because living life is also what's going to make you an incredible actor, because you're going to have experience, and you're going to have wisdom, and you're going to have
you can't do it without that.
Pardon me?
You can't do it without that.
No, you can't do it. You can't fully embrace humanity if you're not fully embracing it in yourself, and therefore you can't bring that to your characters if you haven't lived your life. So keep doing that.
Love that. Yeah, we definitely appreciated you coming on the show today, and you're always welcome back anytime.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the time. Thanks, everyone.
All right.